Hey everyone, welcome back. The holidays right around the corner. I
Yeah.
find myself thinking a lot about relationships.
Yeah.
And not just, romantic relationships, but like all the connections in our lives that really make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a time for reflection on that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, especially
Fine.
with family and friends gathering and
Totally. So that's what we're going to dive into today, and we've got a fantastic guide for this
Okay.
for this deep dive.
awesome.
Daniel Boyd and his piece, A Christmas Eve Reflection on Connection and Growth.
Oh, cool.
And don't let the title fool ya. This isn't just about, finding a date for the holiday party. Boyd really gets into like the core of what makes relationships truly meaningful and how we can actually create those kinds of connections.
I love that. Yeah, it's so much more than just the superficial kind of holiday cheer.
Right.
It's really getting to the heart of
Yeah.
what matters.
And one of the things that he challenges right off the bat is this whole idea of settling in relationships, like just accepting whatever comes our way because we're afraid of
Right.
being alone.
It's so common though, isn't it?
Yeah.
That whole idea of just, oh, well, I better just,
Yeah.
take what I can get.
Why do we do that?
Well, Boyd points out, I think really astutely, that a lot of it comes from fear. Fear of loneliness.
Yeah.
Maybe even if we actually enjoy our own company sometimes.
Yeah.
But there's this societal pressure and this kind of
Totally.
internalized fear, I think.
Yeah.
And, that fear can be amplified by pressure from family, from society, even from finances sometimes. You can make it feel like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, I need to be in a relationship,
Right.
any relationship,
Right.
even if it's not really aligning with what I truly want or need.
So how do we break free from that settling trap? What's like the secret sauce to really, creating those fulfilling connections?
Well, I love this part because Boyd's advice here, I think, is both powerful and simple.
Oh.
And it starts with recognizing your own worth.
Okay.
You deserve to be in a relationship that brings you joy and support and growth,
Yeah.
not one that drains you or makes you compromise on your core values.
I love that.
I mean, he even says your time, your energy, and your presence are valuable. Treat them as such.
That's so good.
It's like, think about it. You wouldn't invest in a stock that you know is going to tank.
Right. Yeah.
Why would you invest in a relationship that isn't going to bring any returns?
That's a great analogy. Okay, so then how do we know what those good returns should actually look like for
Right.
us? Like, how do we get clarity on what we really want and need in a relationship?
Well, he suggests taking some time for self-reflection, really figuring out what are my non-negotiables? What are my must-haves? Is it shared values, respect, transparency, a partner who's willing to face challenges alongside you, all of those things.
It's like making a list almost of those must-haves versus the nice-to-haves.
Absolutely.
Right.
Exactly. And then he even goes a step further and suggests we set clear boundaries and expectations right from the start.
Oh, interesting.
Don't wait for someone to cross a line and then get upset.
Right.
Be upfront about what you will and will not accept.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
It's about taking ownership,
Yeah.
setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, it's like being proactive rather than reactive.
Right.
I love that.
But he doesn't stop there.
Okay.
He also talks about building stability in our own lives,
Right.
outside of relationships. He's a big advocate for investing in our own skills, our knowledge, even our financial independence.
Yeah. Like you were saying before about that fear of being alone. It's like if you have all of those things in place for yourself,
Exactly.
then you're not coming to a relationship.
You're not desperate from
Yeah.
a place of need. Right.
Exactly. It's like, don't wait for someone else to complete you.
Oh, I love that.
Right.
Yeah. Become whole on your own and then seek a partner who can add to your already fulfilling life.
That's so good.
It's such a powerful shift
Yeah.
in perspective.
And speaking of adding to your life, he also talks about the importance of choosing partners who are all about growth, right?
Yes.
For themselves and for the relationship.
Huge emphasis on this. Yeah.
Yeah.
The mutual growth.
Yeah.
He even talks about his own relationship with his partner, Rachel, as an example. They're constantly challenging each other to learn and grow, both as individuals and as a couple.
Oh, wow. So what does that look like? Can you give me an example?
Sure. They'll use different tools like assessments and things to understand each other's personality styles, communication patterns, and
Oh, interesting.
it helps them see their blind spots, the areas where they can grow together.
It's not just about finding someone who's perfect then. It's about finding someone who's willing to
Yeah.
do that work.
It's the growth mindset, isn't it?
Totally.
Applied to relationships.
And this idea of growth ties into another really fascinating concept that Boyd talks about,
Okay.
which is spiral dynamics.
Okay.
Now, I know that might sound a little complicated, but it's essentially a framework for understanding human development. Imagine it like a staircase where each step represents a more mature way of relating to the world and to others.
Okay. I'm picturing a staircase.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Boyd uses this model to highlight the difference between what he calls red level behaviors,
Okay.
which are all about ego, power struggles, and manipulation,
Yeah.
and higher levels where people are more focused on collaboration, empathy, and mutual respect.
Got it.
So it's like some people are stuck on that bottom step,
Right.
always fighting for control,
Yeah.
while others are climbing higher.
Climbing that staircase.
Right, learning to connect and cooperate in
Yeah.
more mature ways.
And that's where I think his perspective on ethical non-monogamy comes in. Because he's arguing that healthy relationships, whether they're monogamous or non-monogamous, are built on the same foundation of honesty, transparency, good communication, and consent.
It's less about the structure of the
Yeah.
relationship then, and more about the values
Exactly.
and principles that guide how people interact with each other.
Absolutely. Like that underlying, set of ethics
Yeah, totally.
that inform everything.
But in order to move beyond those power struggles and manipulative behaviors that he describes as red level,
Right.
we need self-awareness.
Yes.
We need to be willing to look at our own stuff
Big time.
and how it impacts our relationships.
This is huge for him.
Okay, so let's talk about self-awareness.
Okay.
Why is it such a big deal for Boyd?
Well, he really believes it's the key to building, not just ethical, but fulfilling relationships. Because he's challenging us to really look in the mirror and honestly assess our role in the dynamics that we're experiencing.
So it's not just about blaming our partner when things go wrong.
Right.
It's also about recognizing how we might be contributing
To the problem.
He's saying growth starts with this discomfort of true self-awareness.
Ooh, that's good.
Right. So it's about acknowledging our own behaviors,
Yeah.
even the ones that we'd rather not see,
Right.
and taking responsibility for the ways that we might be hurting others, even unintentionally.
That sounds tough, but incredibly important.
Oh, it's huge.
So how do we do that? How do we actually become more self-aware?
He says we need to get real with ourselves.
Okay.
Even if it's uncomfortable, acknowledge those blind spots. The areas where we're not as self-aware as we think we are.
Right.
Be honest about our triggers.
Okay.
The things that set us off,
Right.
cause us to react in unhealthy ways, and really own up to the times that we've messed up,
Yeah.
hurt others. It's not about beating ourselves up.
Right.
It's about learning and growing from our mistakes.
So self-awareness is about being honest with ourselves even when it's hard.
Yeah.
And then using that knowledge
Yeah.
to make better choices
Exactly.
in our relation. And he stresses that this is especially crucial in ethical non-monogamy,
Okay.
where, those complexities of multiple relationships
Right.
really require an even higher level of self-awareness,
Makes sense.
clear communication,
Yeah.
and emotional responsibility.
He's not sugarcoating it. He's really saying, we have to
Yeah.
be willing to face some hard truths about ourselves,
Yeah.
accept that we're going to make mistakes,
Right.
and deal with those uncomfortable feelings in a healthy way.
Absolutely. He's challenging us to step up our game
Yeah.
when it comes to emotional maturity and self-responsibility.
I love that.
And this kind of leads us into another really fascinating aspect of Boyd's work, which is his exploration of the different types of love
Oh, okay.
and their role in building strong, lasting relationships.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's dive into the different types of love.
All right, let's do it.
I'm ready.
So he actually breaks down 6 different types of love.
Okay.
And he starts with eros, which is that passionate, intense, often very physical, emotional attraction.
Ah, Eros. The heart-racing, butterfly-inducing kind of love.
Exactly. That initial spark.
Yeah.
That can be so powerful.
Yeah.
But he argues that while eros can be a great starting point,
Okay.
it often lacks the depth and stability that's needed for a long-term relationship.
Mm-hmm.
He points out that relying solely on passion can actually set us up for disappointment
Okay.
because, those intense feelings,
Yeah.
they tend to fade over time.
It's like that saying, love is blind. Sometimes we can't see the relationship clearly because we're
Right,
so
it's
caught up in
those colored glasses.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what are some of the other types of love?
Well, he goes on to discuss philia, which is friendship or companionate love.
Okay.
So this is the kind of love that's based on mutual respect, shared values, and a really deep emotional connection. Think about, your best friends.
Yeah.
The people that you can truly be yourself with,
Yeah, you can laugh with them.
Laugh, cry, confide in.
Totally.
That's philia.
Philia sounds like the kind of love that can weather any storm.
He really believes it's essential for long-lasting relationships.
Yeah.
Because it prioritizes, that genuine partnership and support
Right.
over that fleeting passion. It's about building a solid foundation of trust, respect, and that genuine enjoyment of each other's company.
I love that. So we've got eros, that passionate love, and we've got philia, that love between friends.
Right.
What's next on his list?
Okay, so next is agape, which is often described as that unconditional love.
Okay.
It's selfless, it's empathetic. You put the well-being of the other person above your own.
Agape sounds beautiful, but almost saintly.
Right.
Like, is there a downside to that kind of love?
Yeah, well, while it's a wonderful quality
Okay.
to bring to a relationship, he does caution that agape can become problematic
Okay.
if it's not balanced with healthy boundaries and self-respect.
Makes sense.
If you're constantly giving without receiving,
Yeah.
it can create an imbalance in the relationship.
You have to fill your own cup, right?
Exactly.
Where you can.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what other types of love are there?
Well, next he moves on to pragma,
Okay.
which is that practical, committed love.
Okay.
It's built on that long-term commitment, shared goals, and a sense of partnership in navigating life's ups and downs. Think about couples that have been together for decades.
Yeah.
They face challenges,
Yeah.
celebrated triumphs together. That's pragma in action.
Pragma sounds like the glue that holds relationships together over the long haul.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah.
He stresses that pragma is crucial for weathering those inevitable storms that life throws our way.
Yeah.
It's about making a conscious choice to be in the relationship, even when it's not easy or exciting. It's about showing up consistently, working through conflicts constructively, and really supporting each other's dreams and aspirations.
So it's not always fireworks and grand gestures. It's about those small everyday efforts, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And just showing up consistently.
It's the commitment piece.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and then what else? What other types?
Well, now for a bit of fun, he introduces ludus,
Oh, ludus.
which is playful love.
Okay.
So think flirting, teasing, that spontaneity, lighthearted adventure. It's the kind of love that keeps things, fresh and exciting.
Yeah.
But he suggests that, while ludus can definitely enhance a connection,
Okay.
it's not sustainable on its own.
Right.
It needs to be balanced with those other types of love.
It's like the sprinkles on a cupcake,
Yes.
right? Like it makes it more delightful, but you wouldn't want a cupcake made entirely of sprinkles.
Perfect analogy.
Okay, good. So we got 5. What's number 6?
And last but certainly not least is philocha,
Okay.
which is self-love.
Okay.
And this is really the foundation of any healthy relationship. It's about having that strong sense of self-worth, accepting yourself, knowing your own needs and boundaries.
So it's about recognizing that you are worthy of love and respect,
Yes.
both from yourself and from others.
Exactly.
Wow.
And he really emphasizes that philocha is crucial because you can't truly love another person
Yeah.
if you don't first love and respect yourself.
Right.
It allows you to show up in your relationships with authenticity, with confidence, and a willingness to both give and receive love
Yeah.
without losing yourself in the process.
That's so good.
Right.
Okay, so he's laid out these 6 different types of love. Which ones does he consider the most important?
Good question.
Ah.
That's what we're going to dive into next.
Okay. I can't wait. I'm so intrigued to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
What?
We'll be right back. So out of those 6 types of love that we were just talking about, Boyd highlights 3 that he considers particularly important for building lasting relationships: philia, pragma, and philocha.
Friendship, commitment, and self-love. I'm kind of surprised, honestly, that he doesn't include eros,
Yeah.
that passionate love, as one of the essentials. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think he acknowledges that passion is definitely important, especially in those early stages of a relationship. But he's also saying that it's often not enough to sustain a connection over the long term.
Right. Right.
And he even says that sometimes those intense feelings of eros can actually kind of blind us
Yeah.
to potential red flags
Interesting.
or incompatibilities that might be there.
Like we were saying, love is blind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it can keep us from seeing the relationship as clearly as we might need to.
So he's not saying that passion is bad or
Right.
that it shouldn't be present,
No, not at all.
but he's saying that it needs to be balanced with those other essential elements, right?
Yeah, the foundation.
Friendship, commitment, and self-love
Exactly.
to create a truly solid connection.
A balanced connection, yeah. So let's break those down a little bit more.
Yeah.
Starting with philia,
Yeah.
that love between friends. What are some practical ways that we can cultivate this kind of love in our relationships?
Well, Boyd suggests, pretty simply, spending quality time together,
Okay.
doing things you both enjoy.
Right.
It could be as simple as, trying a new hobby together,
Yeah.
or even just having meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
It's about creating those shared experiences, memories
Right.
that can really strengthen that bond of friendship.
So creating those inside jokes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, having that shared history.
That common ground.
Yeah, it's really important for philia.
And I imagine a big part of philia is also about emotional intimacy,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Being able to really open up to each other and share vulnerability big
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Those deeper parts of ourselves.
He talks about, being able to share your thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment, creating that safe space
Yeah.
where you can both truly be yourselves.
Right.
Flaws and
When really feeling seen and heard.
and that relationship, it's essential
Yeah.
for that deep connection.
And he also talks about the importance of mutual respect within philia.
Yes, big time.
Right.
It's about appreciating each other's individuality,
Right.
valuing each other's opinions,
Yeah.
celebrating each other's strengths.
It's recognizing that you're both on the same team.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
You're both rooting for each other.
And you're allowed to be different,
Yeah.
You don't have to be carbon copies of each other.
You complement each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So important for that long-term friendship and connection.
Okay, so we've covered philia, that love between friends.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about pragma, the practical,
The committed love.
committed love.
Yeah.
How can we cultivate more of that in our relationships?
So he talks about, setting goals together,
Okay.
both short-term and long-term,
Right.
having those conversations about your hopes and dreams for the future, and really making sure you're aligned on those big things in life.
Working together.
Yeah, it's that teamwork, that shared vision.
It's like building a life together
Exactly.
rather than just,
Yeah.
having fun in the moment.
And, he talks about how pragma is about showing up consistently,
Okay.
even when it's not easy or exciting.
It's the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's not about the grand gestures or the romantic getaways all the time.
Yeah.
It's about those small, everyday efforts.
Right, the consistency.
Yeah, to nurture the relationship.
And then finally, we have philosia, self-love.
Yes.
How do we cultivate that, not just for ourselves, but for the sake of our relationships?
This is huge for him. He's a huge advocate for self-love. And he encourages us to really invest in ourselves, our physical health, our mental well-being, our personal growth.
It's recognizing that we have to take care of ourselves first.
You
Right.
can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think so often, especially I think for women, we're taught that putting ourselves first is selfish.
Yeah.
But he's really saying, like, no, it's essential.
It's essential, yeah. If you want to show up as your best self
Right.
in any relationship,
Yeah, for anyone.
you have to take care of yourself first.
And part of philosia is also about setting those healthy boundaries.
Yes, absolutely. Knowing what your limits are.
Right.
Communicating them clearly.
Yeah.
Not being afraid to say no
Yes, that's so important.
when you need to.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that you deserve to be treated with respect. And that taking care of your own needs isn't selfish, it's essential.
It's like having self-respect, basically.
Absolutely. And he talks about the importance of practicing self-compassion.
Oh, yeah.
Like treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding
Yeah.
that we would offer a close friend.
Oh, that's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Giving ourselves that same grace and understanding.
It's recognizing that we're all human.
Yes.
We're all going to make mistakes.
We're works in progress.
And we're all worthy of love and forgiveness.
Beautifully said, yeah. And so, by cultivating these three types of love, philia, pragma, and philosia, Boyd really believes that we can create relationships
Yeah.
that not really survive, but thrive.
Even when things get hard.
even in the face of challenges.
Right.
Because there will be challenges.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
It's not always smooth sailing.
No relationship is perfect.
Right. There are going to be times when we struggle.
You know, there will be times when we hurt each other.
Yeah.
When we question whether it's all worth it.
Yeah.
But he's saying, you know, we shouldn't shy away from those difficult truths. We should actually lean into them.
Right.
Use them as opportunities for growth.
So it's not about avoiding the hard stuff.
Yeah.
It's about
embracing it.
Leaning into it and using it as a way to understand each other better.
And to grow, you know, both individually and together.
Yeah, I love that.
And he reminds us that, you know, we're all works in progress. And so are our relationships.
Right.
It's an ongoing journey of learning, growing, and evolving together.
Yeah, and a big part of that journey is developing that self-awareness that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it all comes back to that. You know?
Yeah, recognizing those unhealthy patterns that we might be bringing into our relationships.
Yeah, and he talks specifically about, you know, those red level behaviors that we were discussing.
Right, yeah.
The power struggles, the manipulation, the need to be right all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's really challenging us to step up, do the work to become more emotionally mature and self-aware.
So it's not just about finding the right partner. It's also about becoming the right partner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Doing our own inner work so that we can show up
in
those healthier ways.
Yeah, beautifully said. He really emphasizes that, you know, even when we mess up, which we all will.
Yeah, of course.
You know, we can always choose to repair, to apologize, take responsibility for our actions, and make amends.
So it's like recognizing that we're not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But we can always
do better.
Choose to do better.
Yeah.
I love that.
You know, it's a process.
It's a practice.
It's a journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he even acknowledges that, you know, sometimes despite our best efforts, relationships don't work out.
Yeah.
You know, he acknowledges that not every connection is meant to last forever.
Right.
And that sometimes letting go
is the healthiest choice for everyone involved.
That's a hard truth, but I think it's an important one.
It's really important to remember that, yeah.
So how does he suggest we navigate those situations where we realize, okay, this isn't working, even though I've put in the effort?
He really encourages us to end relationships with respect and dignity. You know, to recognize that just because it didn't work out romantically doesn't mean the other person is a bad person.
Right. It just means it wasn't the right fit.
That exactly. Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't the right time.
And, you know, he cautions against resorting to those red level tactics when a relationship ends. No ghosting, no bad mouthing, no trying to get the last word.
Taking the high road.
Even when it's hard.
Even when it hurts.
Yeah,
it's about showing that respect.
Yeah.
And he even suggests, you know, leaving the door open for the possibility of reconnection in the future. Yeah. Recognizing that people change, they grow.
And sometimes relationships can evolve.
Yeah.
In really unexpected ways.
It's like not closing yourself off to the possibility of something different in the future.
And, you know, he really gets to the heart of his message when he talks about this importance of showing up as equals in our relationships.
Okay.
You know, he says, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he says, true partners don't use their perceived advantages to control or manipulate each other. They don't get insecure about differences in power or status.
It's recognizing that we all have something to offer. Yeah. Right? And that it's about, you know, respecting those differences.
Yes, celebrating each other's strengths.
Yeah.
Supporting each other's growth.
And that we're both coming to the table as equals. Yeah. And this is where I think his insights into ethical non-monogamy become particularly relevant.
This is where it really shines, I think.
Because he's suggesting that these principles of equality, respect, and clear communication are even more crucial when navigating the complexities of multiple relationships.
You're juggling more.
Right.
You know, more needs, more feelings, more boundaries.
So what are some of his key recommendations for those who are maybe exploring ethical non-monogamy or just curious about what that looks like?
Well, he starts by emphasizing the importance of relentless communication.
Okay.
You know, he's like, check in often.
Okay.
Don't assume that everyone's feelings or needs are going to stay the same over time.
So it's about being proactive and making sure that everyone is on the same page.
Absolutely. And he also talks about addressing jealousy head on.
Okay.
He actually says that jealousy is not inherently bad.
Interesting.
It's more like an indicator of unmet needs or insecurities.
Okay, so it's a signal.
It's information.
Right.
Yeah. He's saying acknowledge it without shame.
Don't try to push it down.
Don't suppress it.
Yeah.
Explore its roots. Work through it together.
So it's about using it as a way to understand each other better.
Absolutely. He sees jealousy as a really valuable piece of information that can help us understand ourselves and our partners better.
Yeah, I love that.
Right.
Instead of just feeling like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way.
I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
I'm doing this wrong.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And he also talks about the importance of prioritizing time management.
Yes.
Yeah.
Making sure that all partners feel valued and respected.
And included.
Included, yeah.
Yeah, that's so important.
Because, he says healthy non-monogamy requires that intentional scheduling to make sure that you're not neglecting any of those relationships magically.
Right.
Yeah.
And he really encourages, creating agreements rather than rules. He says that rules can restrict autonomy, but agreements allow for flexibility.
Boy. While still respecting boundaries.
That's a good distinction because it's about, again, finding that balance.
It's about finding what works for everyone involved.
Yeah.
In a way that feels empowering rather than constricting.
I love that. So I think this has been such a rich conversation so far.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Boyd has shared so many
I got a lot to say.
Insightful ideas about relationships and self-awareness and personal growth. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what is one final thought that you would like to leave our listeners with?
I think one of the most powerful things that Boyd talks about is this idea that every relationship, even the ones that don't last forever, can teach us something really valuable about ourselves.
That's so true. It's so easy to get caught up in this idea that a relationship is only successful if it lasts forever.
Right.
But I think Boyd's perspective is so much more
nuanced.
Yeah, nuanced and just so much deeper than that.
He's not looking at it as a pass or fail kind of thing,
Well, yeah.
And he actually says the relationships we cultivate, whether they flourish or fade, are part of the greater story of our growth and self-discovery.
I love that.
It's like each one is adding a chapter.
A new chapter.
To your own personal story.
Yeah, I love that.
Right. And so it's not about judging those relationships, labeling them as successes or failures, but really just recognizing, what did I learn from that?
Right.
How did I grow?
How did it shape who I am?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
even those relationships that felt like a detour or a wrong turn.
Yeah, those plot twists.
Yeah. They were still part of the journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It all brought you to where you are now.
And I think that's really empowering, especially as we head into a new year, right?
Like a fresh start.
Yeah. Like we can release those regrets or judgments about the past.
Forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Forgive others.
And just take those lessons.
Take the wisdom.
And move forward.
Yeah. And apply it.
Right. Yeah.
To future connections.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's like saying thank you. To those past relationships for the lessons.
For the lessons.
Yeah. And I'm moving forward with a more open heart and a deeper understanding of myself.
Beautifully said.
And, Boyd reminds us that this journey is ongoing, right?
It's never done.
It's not like we reach a point and we've got it all figured out.
No, it's constant evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's messy.
It's messy.
And it's unpredictable.
But it's beautiful, too.
But it's also really beautiful, I think. Yeah.
There's beauty in the mess.
Yeah, totally. Well, this has been such a great conversation.
I've really enjoyed this deep dive.
Yeah, me.
I always learn so much from Boyd's work.
Me too. Me too. And I think he gives us so much to think about, especially as we head into this season of connection. Celebration.
Reflection as well.
Yeah, totally. So as we wrap up, what's one final thought that you want to leave our listeners with?
Let me see. Well, I guess I would just say, as you gather with loved ones this holiday season, or even if you're spending it in solitude, just remember Boyd's message. Embrace that honesty in your relationships, cultivate mutual respect, and remember that growth and alignment are always possible. Never lose hope.
I love that. And to our listeners, we wish you a happy and healthy holiday season filled with love, connection, and growth.
Absolutely.
And remember, the journey to meaningful relationships starts with you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.